How do you deal with nest stress and burnout for good, especially if you're an experienced nest leader who has given years and years of your life to the nursing profession, but you've now reached a point where you feel like your job and your career is taking way more than it's giving, and you're pouring from an empty cup? The stress from nursing as a profession is actually classified as an occupational hazard. So today we're talking about short-term solutions to dealing and coping with nurse stress and burnout. We're also going into long-term solutions. As we dive in, hit that subscribe button. By definition, burnout is a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by prolonged excessive stress, often in a work setting. Causes of burnout include excessive workload, lack of control or autonomy over one's work, unclear expectations, or when your role or responsibility lacks clarity, and reduced rest, so a poor work life balance and high pressure environment. Symptoms of burnout include emotional exhaustion, where you're feeling drained and overwhelmed, you're unable to meet your daily demands, and sometimes as a nurse leader, this can even manifest itself as you just not caring anymore, where you just not concerned about the results of your team and the direction in which things are heading. Another symptom is depersonalization. So it's a sense of detachment where there's cynicism and negativity towards work or life. You can easily identify this within yourself if you're now at a point where you're always complaining. No matter what good happens at work, you always have something negative to say. Reduced accomplishment, where you no longer produce the results you used to produce and you no longer feel as if you're getting anything important done. A classic symptom is mental and physical exhaustion, where you're constantly tired and you have difficulty concentrating. The last symptom I'll mention is reduced motivation, where you no longer find joy or you no longer want to do the things that you enjoyed doing before. You lack the drive that you once had. I'm going to start off with the immediate solutions that you can implement, and then we'll go into the long term solution. When it comes to immediate, learn to prioritize yourself and say yes to yourself, because you're in a state where you're unable to keep on pouring the way you've been pouring. And the reason why you're feeling the way you're feeling is because now you're empty and there isn't much left to pour. So it's okay for you to prioritize yourself. And I'm giving you permission to actually say yes to yourself, prioritize yourself, because nursing is a caring and compassionate profession. So over the years, we learn to care and take care of other people at the detriment of ourselves. And now you've reached a point where you really do need to just prioritize and take care of yourself. Secondly, rest. If you need to just disconnect and take a month, 2 months, 3 months off from your permanent full time job, then do so. Ask for paid or unpaid time off. Years ago, when I hit burnout, I quit my permanent full time job and I resorted to casual nursing and learning new skill sets that I'd never done before. That break enabled me to really refocus, and eventually, it took time, but it enabled me to eventually fall in love with nursing and reconnect with why I had become a nurse. So give yourself that time to just rest, rewire, reset, and you're not doing your employer, your healthcare provider, your patients a favor by continuing to trudge your feet along when you're in a state of burnout and constant stress, because the likelihood of you making mistakes and the likelihood of you just being an ineffective team member is high during this time. Third, take time to do what you love. When we grow up and become adults, we lose the sense of play and joy that comes with being a child. There is so much benefit from just playing, having fun, tapping into your creativity. I speak to nest leaders every day, and some of them tell me that they've reached a point where they are no longer, like they're creative people and they're no longer knitting, they're no longer painting, they're no longer just doing the things that they used to enjoy doing because work has grown to take over their whole lives. If you allow work to take over every single part of your life, it's a sure way to always be constantly stressed and lead yourself to a dead end burnout. So think about what it is you loved and enjoyed doing that you stopped doing. And maybe you used to love riding a bike. I love bike riding, and you have stopped riding a bike, or you love being in nature, going for long walks just for the sake of filling your cup, and you've stopped doing it. Make it a priority. I even advise people to make a fun list of 10 to 20 things that you thoroughly enjoy doing. I know for me, on my list of things I love doing is enjoying a cup of tea every morning. I have to enjoy a cup of tea, and usually it's like very little water and a lot of milk, and I savor the experience of just doing this. Maybe for you, you love practicing your faith, so it might be sitting down and praying in the morning, reading your Bible, journaling, just doing something that is not practical per se, but just enjoyable, that is just pleasurable. If you love your baths, your bath time, and just sitting in there reading a book, go ahead and do so. What fills your cup, and how can you start making it a priority? If you're thinking, you know what, I don't even have the time to do that, you do. You don't want to wait until it's too late for you to start doing it. This is a huge priority. So schedule, block out 30 minutes, 1 hour of your day to just do something that you wildly enjoy. I love long drives, so I try to make sure that at least every day I get into my car and have a 30-minute drive minimum, or 45-minute drive. I even enjoy traffic, where I'm just sitting in traffic, because I just get to think and just be there doing what I love for a prolonged period of time. What does that look like for you? Let me know in the comments. Fill your cup regularly. So just don't do it now as a band-aid measure, because you're very stressed and you're burnt out and emotionally exhausted, and you're ticking every box on the symptoms that I just stated out. But make it a part of your life. Make it something that is regular and routine. If possible, try and do it a few times every week without fail for the next few months, and revisit and see how that goes for you. I'm sure you're going to see the difference within yourself. Now, onto the long term solution for dealing with nest stress and burnout. Reconnect with your sense of purpose. Somewhere along the way, you have forgotten why you are doing what you're doing. You have lost your reason for what you do. As a result, the joy has also left and gone. I'm not saying this in a way that says the nursing profession is perfect. No, it's going to take years for us to rebuild the healthcare profession. And sometimes I even suspect that things need to fall onto the ground and break, and then we'll build something new again. So that's probably going to take 10, 20, 30 years. Probably another generation or two will pass before we have an amazing healthcare system. So in the meantime, how can you change your own situation? When you lose track of why you're doing what you're doing, even the reason becomes unclear, and you lose the sense of excitement that you once had. Probably now you're at a point where waking up in the morning is a dread. You dread waking up, and you're just thinking, not the mundane again, not the doctors who are always constantly complaining, not the other nurses who are not pulling their weight, not the clients and the patients shouting at me again, right? But I want you to bring it back to yourself. When you started out in nursing, what was your reason for starting out in nursing? What was your motivation and drive for going into it? If you sat down, right, and just reconnected with that reason, what does it look like for you? Everyone has a reason for doing what they do. When I speak to nurse leaders and interview them, I find their why comes from childhood, a challenge or a suffering or even a joy that they have experienced, which led them to say, you know what? I want to spend my life solving this problem. I want to spend my life bringing comfort. I want to spend my life helping other people feel heard and helped, healing people, and being that person who brings a smile on that person's face. It might mean going away and just, retreating, whether for a few hours, for a few days, really revisiting what you feel your life purpose is, what fills your cup. If you were not getting paid for the rest of your life, what would you be doing? And usually the sense of purpose comes from something that just excites you, it brings you joy. You do not count the time when you're doing it. And I just want you to really sit down and just reflect and go inwards and really think about what your life purpose is and the work that you want to do as a healthcare professional. Get to know yourself better. So I recommend doing a personality test, and you can do it using the nearest type explorer test because it's highly accurate and it's also partly free, and it will help you really know what your strengths, your weaknesses are, what's aligned to you, what's out of alignment. As you learn more about your personality, you will easily identify the fact that probably over the past few years you have been doing work that is out of alignment with who you are. It might not even mean, having to leave the company in order for you to come into alignment, but it might be about exploring other avenues at that same place where you're working and asking for different opportunities from what you're doing now. Maybe your personality has changed over time. We grow, we change, we start valuing other things. So when you look at the work that you're doing every day, is it in alignment with your value system? Maybe when you started off in your nursing career, all you wanted was to climb the corporate ladder, make the most money, and have fun whilst doing it. But as you've gotten older and wiser, now you're more about bringing more meaning, making a bigger impact. Maybe you're now passionate about supporting and upskilling newer and lesser experienced nurses. Maybe you're more passionate about creating healthy work systems rather than just continuing to function in hostile work environments. And you have not taken the time to make the necessary changes based on the growth that you have made over the years. So now you're feeling stagnant, you're constantly stressed, and you're in burnout. So go right ahead, do that nearest type explorer test, and get to know yourself again. Number three, make a long term plan for yourself. So much gets lost under the radar when we are thinking about the short term, the bills, the child's school fees, the next expense, the next paycheck. Think about the longer term. Think about 5 years, even 10 years where possible, and make a plan for your career. How do you want your career to look like in the next 3 years, in the next 5 years? What do you want to build? As you do this, you will get excited again, and even that stress will start to melt away because now you're coming up with a lasting solution to the problem that has been tormenting you for the past few years as a nurse. If you knew you could not fail, what would you do? Where would you be? And how would you be doing whatever you want to do? People make this mistake. They think, okay, I'm burnt out. I'm dealing with all this constant stress. So I'm just going to quit my job and find the next place to work in. And you go to the next place within 2, 3 years, you're experiencing the same problem again because you've never really stopped to think long term and think about what it is you want to build within your career. Act despite the fear. So you've reconnected with your purpose. Now you know what your personality is, what your strengths and your weaknesses are. You've made a long-term plan for yourself. The next step is to act. No plan works unless you work the plan. Take action despite how you might be feeling like, but what will happen if I lose the steady paycheck? What will happen if I leave this work environment? Sometimes you fool yourself and say, better the devil I know than the devil that I don't know. No, the devil you know is just as bad. So go ahead and take that step. Don't let the fear of the unknown hold you back, because if you don't take the action that you need to take, many years down the line, you will look back and regret the decisions and the steps that you never took. And if you've reached a point where you want to learn how to transform your nursing expertise into a nurse consulting business so that you can have autonomy and flexibility, book an appointment with me. My calendar is in the comments and description below. Lastly, learn to love yourself again. Stop with the people pleasing, putting everyone and everything else first, and always saying no to yourself. It's not serving you in this moment. And you want to interrupt that pattern before you start having chronic diseases, anxiety, and depression from the constant stress and the burnout. Love yourself again. Know that you are worth loving. I know that as nurses, we equate our sense of self worth to our jobs, but you're not just your job. You're way more than your profession. You're way more than your job. You're amazing. You're an amazing person. You have a lot that you bring to the table. You've accumulated vast life experience, and you're worth loving. A lot of things changed in my life when I started loving myself. I even started making decisions, even when I knew that other people would not agree with those decisions. And I owned those decisions. Have I always been correct over the years? No, I have failed a lot of times, fallen down so many times. But I can confidently say that those failures and all the falling down, it was a result of my decision and not living in fear of other people's opinions. A lot of beautiful things have also come from the courage to say no to the status quo. And you can do the same. Opportunities will start opening up for yourself when you start loving yourself and really listening to what you need in this moment. Do take time and make these lasting changes so you can interrupt and stop that cycle of constant stress and burnout before it's too late. Hit subscribe, and if you got value from this video, also like, so that YouTube can tell other amazing nest leaders and bent out nest managers that there is value here and they too can change their lives. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day.